So in this video we're going to go over plotting points by hand in a three-dimensional coordinate system. So in our three-dimensional coordinate system, like we saw in the previous video, we're going to have our x, our y, and our z axes, which will be mutually orthogonal. Depending on your discipline, some disciplines might label this the y-axis and this the x, and some computer algebra systems will reverse the order of these axes. So for example, GeoGebra will make this the x-axis and this the y. But our convention, and the typical convention I've seen in most math books, is to make this the x and this the y-axis. So we're going to stick with that convention. When we have an x-coordinate, the x-coordinate tells us the directed distance that we are from the YZ plane. And when you are drawing in an x-coordinate, you're always drawing a line segment that's parallel to the x-axis. When you're talking about a y-coordinate, you're talking about a directed distance from the XZ plane. And when you draw the line segment in that gives you that directed distance, you're always drawing a line that is parallel to the y-axis. When you have your z-coordinate, it is the directed distance from the XY plane. And you would always draw that perpendicular to the XY plane, and the line segment would be parallel to the z-axis. And this height here should match the height from the origin to the 5 here. When you're hand drawing, you want to try to make those distances match as much as you can. So let's look at an example where we start from scratch. So I've got 2 points here I want to plot, the point 3, negative 2, 5, and these are your x, y, z coordinates, your x, y, z coordinates. So I like to start by drawing in my z-axis first, my positive z-axis. I then like to draw in my positive x-axis and my positive y-axis. And then I like to look at the points and see where my tick marks are going to need to live. So in the x direction, I see that I need to go out to at most positive 5. So on the positive x-axis, I'm going to put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tick marks. And in the x direction, I see that I need the negative, in the y direction, I see that I need the negative y-axis, the negative component of the y-axis. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. And I need tick marks that go to negative 2. So I'm going to go 1, 2 out to negative 2. And then in the z direction, I see that I need to go from negative 2 to positive 5. So I'm going to draw in the negative part of the z-axis. And I'm going to go from my negative 2 all the way to my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I try to get the tick marks in that I'm going to need. And once I do that, I'm ready to plot the points. So working with this point first, this is 3, negative 2, 5. So on the x-axis, I'm going to go 3 units down the x-axis. So 1, 2, 3, I would go to here. And then in the y direction, we need to go negative 2 units. So starting at x equal to 3, I'm going to dash a line out, and I want to make that line parallel to the y-axis and the same distance it is from the origin to the negative 2. Let's see if I can get that a little bit better. So parallel to the y-axis, parallel to the y-axis, and that same distance that I see right here, I want to roughly replicate that. So I should be 3 units from the YZ plane and negative 2 directed units from the XZ plane. And then you do your Z coordinate last. So you look at this distance right here and you try to draw a line segment that is that distance from this point here in the XY plane that's parallel to the Z axis. So I'm going to dot myself up until I think I've dotted in roughly that height. And again, this is a little bit, you're eyeballing it, so it's a little bit subjective, and then you label the point. So this is the point 3, negative 2, 5. So for this one, I see I need to go 5 units along the x-axis, so we'd be running out to here. Negative 2 units, so again, dash that point in, negative 2 units parallel to the y-axis, and then negative 2 units means drop down 2. So I want to look at this distance right here, negative 2 units going down. I want to try to draw a line parallel to that that goes down about that same distance that I see here, and then this is the point. X is 5, Y is -2, Z is -2. We'll do one more with the maybe with a PQ. Let's make this a point R with a, let's let the x-axis be negative, which would force me to extend my axis out this way, and then I would need -1, -2, -3. So run out to -3. Let's make this positive. Let's make the y positive this time. So 2 units in the positive y direction would be 1, 2 roughly. So run parallel to the y-axis out about 2 units. So there should be a 3 by 2 rectangle here in this octant. And then pick your z poison. Let's say it's 5 units up. So we'd look at this distance of 5 and we try to dash our way up parallel to the z-axis until this line segment looks about the length of that line segment, and then we would jot our point in.